The Titanic is arguably the most legendary ship ever, mainly because of its tragic sinking on its very first trip in 1912. But there's way more to the story. Tons of weird and mysterious facts you probably never knew. Let's know 10 surprising facts about the Titanic. When the RMS Titanic was built in 1912, it was the crown jewel of ocean liners, a floating palace of iron and luxury. The cost? A staggering $7.5 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $183 million today, enough to fund a small nation's navy, or at least a dozen super yachts. Here's a wild twist. It cost $200 million to make Titanic, James Cameron's legendary 1997 blockbuster. That's more than the actual Titanic cost to build back in 1912. Hollywood literally spent more recreating the tragedy than it cost to create the ship itself. But hey, at least Cameron's Titanic didn't sink. It made over $2 billion and sailed straight into film history. The Titanic was built to carry over 3,500 souls, a floating city on the sea. But when it set sail on that fateful April night in 1912, only 2,223 people were on board, including crew and passengers. That's over 1,000 empty spots. When the Titanic sank into the icy Atlantic, it didn't just take a ship. It swallowed a tragedy too vast to fully measure. Of the 2,223 passengers and crew, an estimated 1,517 lives were lost, but the exact number? Still unknown. In the chaos of that dark night, names were never confirmed, some souls never identified. What remains is a haunting number and the chilling truth that not everyone who boarded Titanic made it into the history books. Here's the part that shocks everyone. The Titanic was built to carry 64 lifeboats, but when it set sail, it only had 20, not even close to enough for everyone on board. Why? Aesthetics. Yep, too many lifeboats were seen as ugly and unnecessary for a ship deemed unsinkable. That decision left over 1,000 people with nowhere to go when disaster struck. The Titanic took 2 hours and 40 minutes to sink after hitting the iceberg. Let that sink in, literally. That's shorter than Avengers Endgame at 3 hours and 2 minutes, and even shorter than James Cameron's Titanic, which runs a full 3 hours and 14 minutes. Yep, you can watch the entire disaster unfold on screen in more time than it actually took in real life. In real life, there was a Joseph Dawson aboard the Titanic, a 23-year-old coal trimmer from Dublin. He died in the sinking and was buried in Nova Scotia, Canada. But after James Cameron's Titanic hit theaters in 1997, something unexpected happened. Fans began flocking to his grave, believing he was Jack Dawson, Leo DiCaprio's iconic but fictional character. The wreckage of the Titanic rests 12,600 feet beneath the surface of the Atlantic, about 370 miles off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. It's a world far removed from the luxury it once promised. And here's the eerie part. The two halves of the ship, torn apart by the forces of the sea, are scattered nearly 2,000 feet apart. This once mighty vessel now lies in the cold dark, a haunting reminder of human ambition and its tragic end. Just 29 days after the Titanic sank, the world's first movie about the disaster hit the screens. Saved from the Titanic, an American silent short film was released in 1912, right after the tragedy. It wasn't the grand epic saga we know today, but a stark, raw glimpse into the aftermath. And here's the kicker. The film starred Dorothy Gibson, who had lived through the horror just weeks earlier. Talk about bringing reality to the silver screen. The Titanic's tragic story has inspired around 19 movies and 27 documentaries, proving that the world just can't let this ship go. Among them, a bizarre 1943 Nazi propaganda film twisted to fit wartime narratives. But of course, the crown jewel is James Cameron's 1997 masterpiece, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, The Titanic that stole our hearts and box office records. From wartime propaganda to Hollywood legend, the ship may have sunk, but its story refuses to.